it was the Jimmy Carter days when interest rates were 17, 18, 20% against my house. I mean, 2 years later when the accountant looked at it and said, you got to get rid of this loan. This is crazy. Yeah, so I mean, I took a chance. Fun fact, the day before I signed the papers, my father called me on the phone and said, you're making a huge mistake. Don't do this. I don't want to see you lose everything. And I said, I'm doing it. It's already a done deal. So if people are out there thinking, man, everything's got to be perfect to go in business, that's not true, man. You got to have the dream, the drive, and the want to work a lot. A lot, because you work a lot. And whenever you think you're going to work a lot, kind of double that. And then that's probably how hard you're going to work.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Little Fish Podcast, where we honor, celebrate, and learn from small business owners just like you. I'm Joel Eschenbach, and on this episode, it's kind of a fun one. I have my dad on this episode. So a few videos back, I mentioned that I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My parents were always starting businesses. So today we're going to dive into a bunch of different businesses that my dad started and what he learned along the way. So welcome to the podcast, Dad.
Well, thank you, man. It's exciting. I'm excited to be here. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's good to have you.
My first podcast.
Oh, so, official.
Yeah, official.
But you have radio experience.
Experience. Yeah, I started DJing on radio, a little bit on the oldie station, and then went to when Joy FM first started. I was an early DJ on the Joy FM for a short time.
So it feels comfortable to be behind the microphone.
It's great. Yeah, this is. I
tell our other guests, I love it. I love putting the headphones on. I love being in the microphone. It just feels it feels natural.
Yeah, you feel like a DJ.
Get the deep voice going.
Hey, don't you know?
So I wanted to talk about, you have started, built, and sold a number of businesses over your career. I mean, I grew up and watched a lot of that happen.
Right.
So I think it'd be good to start with, how many businesses did you have? What were some of the businesses? Can you tell us about that?
Well, really, I had probably 6 businesses that I started and sold. One being a music business. I was a DJ, a mobile DJ. Yeah. And then a singing business. We also, did entertainment, singing, that sort of thing. So that was, called DJ Ventures. That was my early DJ business.
It was like weddings.
Doing weddings, lots of weddings. Back in the 80s when wedding DJs were big and did all kinds of crazy things, jumping off of speakers and dressing up in crazy costumes.
Right. I remember you worked with a guy that did flips.
Did.
Like jump and do
That's
flips
right.
and stuff.
Rick the Trickster.
Yeah.
People probably remember Rick the Trickster. He was, he and I worked together a lot. So yeah, kind of crazy things and dressing up in all kinds of things appropriate for the song, like the YMCA and that sort of thing. Yeah. But it's toned down a lot since then. People don't appreciate that sort of thing anymore.
No, now it's about the band.
It's about the band, right? But DJs were big back then, and I DJed and I've probably done 500 weddings, I'm sure, through the years. Yeah. And anybody out there that I've done your wedding?
Yeah.
Hi, good to see you. I'm still around.
Still hanging around.
But I started my first carpet cleaning business in 1980 when I was 25 years old. Had a young son. Not you.
Son.
You weren't born yet. But Chad, the oldest, was, I don't know. What was he? Probably 4 years old, maybe 3 years old. Yeah. Started my first business. Because the business I was working for sold out and I was out of a job, and I started my first business because I always wanted to, and I took that chance and did it.
Yeah.
And worked out really well.
That was Real Steam.
That was Real Steam. Steam Carpet Cleaning. I had that until 94.
The biggest thing I remember about that company is the logo you had on the side of the truck, but it was back when people would paint the logo. They would actually you hired an artist to paint the side of his truck. Right. That just seems crazy to me, right?
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we would say that was like hipster.
Oh yeah. They still do it now. There's some people that do that now. Yeah.
And my logo was a train.
Yeah.
and actually had a kid from Riverview High School who was doing graphic design back in those days. Designed that train for me with steam coming out of it.
He probably hand drew it.
He did. Yeah. He hand drew it. And then the artist, actually the guy was from the circus that did all the circus, John Ringling Circus. Ringling,
really?
Yeah. And came and hand painted. Took him days to hand paint all that on my truck.
I remember that truck. Yeah. Wow.
It was crazy.
Wow.
So, I mean, things like everything, things have changed so much,
right,
in business. But that was a great business. I mean, it took a lot of hard work. I borrowed against my house to buy my first truck. It was the Jimmy Carter days when interest rates were 17, 18, 20%.
Wow.
Against my house. I mean, 2 years later when the accountant looked at it and said, you got to get rid of this loan. This is crazy. Yeah, so I mean, I took a chance. Fun fact, the day before I signed the papers, my father called me on the phone and said, you're making a huge mistake. Don't do this. I don't want to see you lose everything. And I said, I'm doing it. It's already a done deal. So if people are out there thinking, man, everything's got to be perfect to go in business, that's not true, man. You got to have the dream, the drive, and the want to work a lot. A lot, because you work a lot. And whenever you think you're going to work a lot, kind of double that. And then that's probably how hard you're going to work. But those three things, and I think in any business, that's what you got to have.
Yeah, and it does seem like a lot of times, especially now with technology, people try to bypass that a little bit. And some of that you can automate, make things easier. But at the end of the day, you're still working.
That's true.
You're still putting the hours in. Yeah, it's good.
That's very true. You got to be willing to take the chance, and, it's been said, if it doesn't scare the hell out of you, laying in bed at night, then you're not doing enough. And that's the way you have to operate as an entrepreneur. I mean, not that you take stupid chances, like, you got to calculate as much as you possibly can, but a lot of it's, just, man, you're going to do it and it's going to be right and you're going to make it work.
Yeah, which requires this strange faith in yourself.
Right.
You have to kind of work up the confidence and just say, what the heck?
That's true.
But we're going to go with it.
And as you do more of it, you gain confidence. I mean, you think, wow, I did that. That was pretty cool. That worked. And look, 4 years, 5 years down the line, it's doing well. And, I always say you have to give a business at least 3 years.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to give it 3 years, you might as well not try it. Got to give it 3 years. Got to have the money to do it 3 years or the know-how to do it 3 years.
Yeah.
And mine was pretty much just get out there and
clean carpets.
Yeah. Do it cheap. I did it cheap. I did apartment complexes all over Sarasota for cheap. Yeah. But I worked hard, and I've learned how to be smarter now. You learn through the years how to be a little smarter and not work so hard.
But there is something to be said about starting out. And I know there's a lot of arguments about this because I've listened to podcasts and watched videos and read books about, look, you need to not lower your pricing too much. But I think that there is this part when you're starting out, you've got to get the experience.
Right.
So coming in at a little lower pricing than a competitor that's been in the business for 10 years or whatever makes a lot of sense, I think. And that's what I did too. I had to start out with lower prices because you don't really know what you're doing.
Right.
You can tell people you know what you're doing all you want, but there's so many things you have to figure out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and you got to be careful not to get too low,
right?
Because it brings the whole industry down with you. So, you want to be able to stay pretty standard, but it doesn't hurt to come in a little low until you get some experience and get the reputation going a little bit. But then you learn how to bring your prices up, how to price better, and keep yourself in the ballpark where you're actually making money and not losing money.
Yeah.
I think the first couple of years I actually lost money, but I paid the bills, and that's what it was all about at that time. And I just get going and be able to hang in there for a good 3 years. And then you start seeing the momentum start. I'm now in North Carolina. Went up there to retire, but didn't do well. I failed. Like Ron Klein says, I failed 3 times at retirement. It's just not a lot of fun. I mean, what do you do? Golf every day? I mean, you can't do that every day.
Right.
Some people think you can, but you can't.
Yeah.
And but the momentum still. So I started another carpet cleaning business up there. almost 4 years ago now. And the momentum starting. I have to turn away business because I just
because now you're at a different place in your life, and you don't want all the business that previously.
Exactly.
So back to the 80s, you had Reels Team.
Right.
How many years did you have Reels Team?
From 80 to 94.
Okay.
Sold that business in 94. Then I kind of went back with the new owner and helped him for a year or two, and then got out of that and stayed out of that business for a couple of years. I managed a restaurant, that sort of thing.
I remember that.
I remember Old Home Star Harmony and Shells, and I worked as a restaurant manager.
But you hated, you liked the restaurant a little bit, but you hated the corporate working for the man, right?
I could. I thought I'd be a great employee.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm going to go back. I'll be a great employee because I know how it is to be a boss. I was not good. I was not good because I had my own ideas, And now I know why they say, you had your own business. I'm not sure I want to hire you.
Yeah.
Because you know how to get things done, and you don't really want to do it their way because you really see a better way.
Yeah, you're always questioning their efficiency.
Right.
And you're like, this is stupid. Why are we doing it this way? It should be done this way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you go ahead and do it your way, and they're calling you on the carpet for it because you didn't do it corporate way. And so, I was always getting in trouble for that. Mm-hmm. So that didn't work really well. And so, later, years after, I started a pool business, pool cleaning, which is great in Florida, of course. Pool repairs, and I think I worked it up, and I had that for about 10 years.
Was it that long?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, it was almost 10 years, and sold that, and took that money and parlayed that into another carpet cleaning business and started Greenway Carpet in 2008 when the economy was going down the tubes.
Yeah, right.
I mean, here in Florida, people were just losing houses like crazy.
Absolutely, yeah.
It was a terrible time to start a business.
It was,
Probably the worst time to ever start a business. But you know what? I knew how to do it. Mm-hmm. And once you know how to do it, then you can do it. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the economy's doing. You can make it happen. Now, some businesses do suffer in bad economies.
Right, like construction.
Right, construction fell apart, right. Yeah. So there's some businesses don't. But service businesses usually prosper in a bad time because people want to keep things up. They don't want to replace them, whether it be air conditioning or whatever it might be. They want to keep things going.
Right.
So the business was good.
Yeah, that's cool. And so thinking about Reels Team, which is 80 to 94, and then Greenway Carpet, which you had a decade or so later. Mm-hmm. What are some differences? Because same industry, both carpet cleaning companies. You had the pool business and corporate in the middle.
Right.
What were some things you learned between the two businesses when you went back to carpet cleaning again?
Well, I think the products had changed a lot because we went green. Mm-hmm. So we went to green products, and that helped a lot because we were using some stuff back in the 80s that you might not want to. Yeah, you might not want to breathe in every day, and put in people's houses. It's like, whoops, didn't know the difference back then. We just didn't have green. Now we have green products, stuff that you can almost drink. I use a deodorizer right now, a sanitizer that you could drink. It's made out of thyme, the spice thyme. Yeah. It's, it's just changed so much. Yeah. So we use all green products, thus the name Greenway, or up in Carolina, I call it Green Clean up there. So, so we use all green products. That's changed tons. The equipment, the truck-mounted hot water extraction equipment has changed tenfold. The early truck mounts were questionable at best. And the new ones, a lot more suction, a lot more cleaning capabilities now, a lot more than they ever used to be. One big difference, too, is pricing. I priced totally different than I ever did back then. It was like, I saw a house, I'll do that for $40.
You just kind of made it up on the spot?
Just whatever.
Then?
I'll do it.
That sounds good. Yeah,
that sounds great. I'll just do it for that. But now, then you learn now,
I
man.
get that.
You just did a whole house full of carpet for $40. You're not going to make any money. Well, when you get employees and you get overhead, you have to sit down and realize what it cost you to do that job. Yeah. And how much money you need to make a profit.
Right.
A lot of people say to you, well, you're expensive. That's a lot of money. But do they know what it costs you to do the job? They do not. And everybody's different. I may have a different overhead than you do. You know, I have totally different overhead. So you have to charge different than I do, and I have to charge different than you. So people don't know. But I always get a kick out of customers that go, well, it shouldn't be that high.
Yeah.
Well, how do you know that? But, so you really have to, you know, you have to stick to your guns, and you know what you have to charge, and that's what you have to do.
I get that. Every time that I have backed off on pricing because of, you know, a customer that was pushing back, I've always regretted it. There's never been a time where I was like, yeah, that worked out well. I always regret it.
It'll bite you in the butt every time.
It does.
It just seems to do that.
And they don't, I mean, they don't care about, they're just trying to get the best deal. They don't care about you. Not that people don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, They're in it to get the deal for themselves, which I get, and they have a budget, but then you're the one that gets screwed.
That's right. And I think you have to learn that sometimes you have to, some customers are not your customers. They're just not. And you have to fire them. Some customers you have to fire. You have to go, look, I mean, if you want me to do it cheap, and then you're not going to get the quality that I want to give, so you can't just, you're not my customer. You probably need to go somewhere else. And I have had to do that on occasion. And no hard feelings, just that's the way it is, and that's just business.
Right.
So you have to stick to your guns.
Well, one thing that just from, you know, being little and then growing up, watching you with all the businesses, it seems like when you got to Greenway, when you started that, you also at that point had learned a lot more about marketing and sales, and then you had, you know, when you started back in the 80s when you were younger. Because I remember watching that. I remember watching you implement more marketing techniques and getting out there with, you know, you offered a free room, you know, of carpet cleaning in order to get people in the door, and then you'd upsell them, and that just sort of those strategies that you would use. I know you did some direct mail stuff for marketing.
Yeah, we'd give a free room, and many times you go in and do a free room, and that's all you did. And you didn't charge them, but they got to see what kind of work you did. And if they're going to use anybody, they're going to call you back. But many times, most of the times, they would get more done, or you would just maybe deduct that free room from their whole house. So most of the time they give you more business, and once they see what you do, they love it. We did all kinds of marketing, and I think the main thing is to stay in front of your customers. We did a newsletter. It was nothing about carpet cleaning. It was all about everything else. They had a little trivia game where people used to call in.
I remember that.
And
you'd give them a movie gift card.
Yeah, give them a movie gift card or a Publix gift card or whatever it might be, or gas card for the first one who called in with an answer to the trivia. You know, all kinds of crazy things, maybe about Elvis or maybe about music, or you just never knew. You know, the little trivia game. And that was pre-done for us. We just put our name on it. And that was already pre-done. It was easy. And we actually snail mailed it out, and people loved it. They loved it.
Well, it's interesting because whether we're talking about direct mail or digital marketing, really at the end of the day, we're still doing the same things the same things still work that used to work. They're just a different format. So when you say like giving away a free room, well, now one of the things we always encourage our customers to do is give away some sort of a free PDF to download, so that they can get information from you in exchange for their email address, so that we can market back to them for their email address. It's kind of that same idea. It's just a digital version
that same thing.
Of that.
Yeah, people love free, and if you can give them something free, they love it, and it works. And that's the same thing as the snail mail stuff we used to do. It's just done digitally. You know, people are just changing, and that's the way the younger generation wants it. I mean, snail mail probably eventually is going to go away totally, I would think. But
every once in a while, people will throw a campaign in, and it'll catch attention. But it's funny though. At my house, the mailmen literally hate us. They write us letters because Sarah and I never check the mail because it's all junk. I mean, your mailbox is just full of junk, so it fills up. We have the big neighborhood mailboxes, you know, so it's like a little slot, and it fills up. And every once in a while, he'll drop it on our doorstep with a dirty, not a dirty. What am I trying to say? Like an angry note, not a dirty note. But anyway, I was asking about mail. What do you?
I never check my mail.
You never check your mail either. So you get nasty notes from the mailman.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Why? Because bills are done digitally,
all bills
online.
are digital,
Yeah.
right? And you get an occasional bill, but mail is just kind of a nuisance now to a lot of people because like I have to check it. I mean, you get emails, but I can ignore emails. I can just let them pile up, junk emails if I want. But you can't really do that with your mailbox.
Right.
Anyway, that's a side note.
This is true. Yeah,
I'm getting to be old here, complaining about mail.
Yeah, but that's how things have changed in business too. Tons of different changes for the good.
Right.
It's hard to keep up with sometimes, especially people my age who have had to adapt as we went along.
Yeah.
And we've tried to do a pretty good job of that. And I'm putting a plug in for older people here. And we've tried to, because we were not born into it.
Right.
I mean,
well, the internet age, the technology has drastically changed everything, but the business world over the past, three, 4 decades.
Right.
It's a lot. Whereas business seemed to be done a certain way for quite a long time. A lot of face-to-face meetings, a lot of in-person sales.
Right.
You still have that, but that's going away a lot.
It is.
At least a lot of it is.
And some of the networking. Now, I want to touch on that a little bit. The networking, I think, is still very important. I've been a member of BNI. I've been a member of the chambers where I've done business. I think those are great contact points where you can sit down with someone, explain what you do, and then they get to know you and like you. And people like to do business with people they know, like.
Yeah.
So they'll do business with you, and that's the way you do that. I think you can't lose that one-to-one personality, like we are sitting here talking. You got to be able to talk to people, and a lot of people can't do that, and that's a skill that you learn over the years is talking to people, and then they trust you more and they get to know you more. They get to know you personally. I think that's important, and hopefully people will not lose that.
Yeah,
because that's the one-on-one contact with people, and that's really the old handshake.
Yeah,
that's still valid. It still works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's
and then the digital marketing side of it, the social media should really just back that up.
Right. Exactly.
Sense.
Yeah, that's the beauty about the online stuff, because you can get right to people.
Right.
Reminders, and we used to send out email reminders that it's time to clean your carpets, or thank you for cleaning your carpets, or anything we can do for you. And I think if you charge prices that are a little higher than everybody else, you have to give the service for that.
Yeah.
You have to give extra service. You can't just expect to charge more and not give extra service. Like, for instance, we use, booties on our shoes. We use corner guards to guard their walls when we take hoses through the house. Yeah. We use walk-off mats, that sort of thing. I mean, that's the important part. People they see that.
Yeah,
they might not ever say anything, but they see that, and your neighbor, you had cleaned her carpet, my neighbor's, and she said you put corner guards on, and you were awesome, and so that kind of stuff people love.
Yeah.
I mean, just take that extra little, whatever in your business you can do to add little extra details to people for extra service. I think that's really important. People to see that, they love it.
That's good. We try to send people a bag of coffee.
Yeah.
At the end of every project.
That's right.
Send them a bag
That's
of
a good idea.
coffee.
Yeah.
And we get pretty good feedback on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm always trying to think about what are some extra things that can make the process.
We've tried all kind of things, little bags of goodies after the job. Well, here in Florida, sometime we try to give candy, but it all melted.
It
by
melted
the time. In the bag. It was just a big blob of melt in the bottom.
Have your melted candy.
So that wasn't real good. That didn't work very well. So we had to kind of rethink that. But yeah, you're trying to give a reward to someone for service, for great using us, their service. Thank you works great. Yeah. Thank you very much we try to do that at the end of every job. Shake someone's hand, say thank you for giving us the business. Yeah. We really appreciate it. That means a lot to people. Common courtesy, treating people good. So, and that's what people want. Yeah. They want service these days. Not to call them back in a week or two. Come right out, do the job, or at least respond.
We hear that a lot in the web design world and digital marketing spaces. There's tons of competition, just like any business, carpet cleaning, whatever. Right. It really differentiates you when you call people back. or when you get back to people, or when you respond to people, because so many companies don't. And I often wonder, like, how do you run a business when you don't get back to people?
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me how many people don't.
It's true. Do you have that much business that you don't have to call people back? Yeah.
And I think I've heard that. God, if I had a quarter, a dime, or whatever, every time I've heard, well, I had this website designer and they designed the website for me, and then I could never get a hold of them again.
Right.
Like, what, why? And they lose interest and they move on or whatever.
Took your money and run. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what is the old adage is, 20% of your customers give you 80% of your business. Mm. And that's true. I mean, those customers that you've already established with, man, they're going to keep giving you business. Yeah. And if they want rugs cleaned or tile cleaned, they're going to call the person like me who's been there and responded and did a great job on their carpet. Yeah. They want their couch cleaned, they're going to call me back because I was there for them. So it's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
what's something that in terms of running a business? So you've run business with employees and without employees. Mm-hmm. You've gone both directions. What are the pros and cons there in your perspective? Things you've learned.
Well, I mean, you can't grow without good employees. Mm-hmm. You have to have good employees. So you have to have them, and you try to do everything, especially these days. I mean, I'm amazed at some of the tech places, what they offer their employees.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Flexible work hours.
Work whenever you want.
Gym
membership.
Yeah, sure.
Starting to sound like us.
mini golf in the office there is like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, free buffets of food.
Lunch buffet every day. It's like, but that's what it takes to get good employees. That's what you have to do. Yeah. Good employees are really, 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 really hard to find. Mm-hmm. I've had good ones and I've had some really, really bad ones. And the bad ones can ruin you very quickly, faster than a good one can expand your business.
Yeah.
It's a slippery slope. So you have to be very careful on who you hire. It's expensive to hire someone. Yeah. By the time you pay them, pay their insurance, their workman's comp, all the things you have to pay, their taxes, all the things. It's very expensive. You want to make sure you hire right. I suggest going through an agency to help screen some of those people. I've had good luck with that.
Okay.
Through an employment agency.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the job you offer. They can find someone for you, and they've already vetted them. They've already talked to them. They've already interviewed them, so they know what kind of people you're looking for. That's probably a good thing to do. I could tell you some horror stories of employees.
I remember some. I remember
the one that took off for the day to do jobs. Right, left the office, and Friday night the truck never came back. Never came back. Stole the truck. When I moved back to, I think Minnesota,
and took the truck
and stole the truck.
Minnesota.
No. They found it in Georgia after it ran out of gas beside the road.
Wow!
And we had to go get it. Yeah, that was fun. So
you're not driving my car.
It's a gun, the truck, everything in it. It's like, oh great.
Yeah.
So you just never know. So you have to be careful. Employees, but there's some good ones out there. Mm-hmm. There's people that want to work. There's people that want maybe to be involved in a great business, and you just got to keep looking and find them. I've had some real good ones too. So, and that helped me expand my business. If I didn't have good employees to do the work, I mean, how could I even expand the business? It wouldn't even work.
Yeah,
you can only do so much yourself.
Right.
Believe me, I've tried. Because I'm pretty stubborn. I can do this myself. That's not a problem. I don't need anybody. Yeah, well, that don't work because eventually.
Somebody quits or you let somebody go, and then you're like, I'll just take over that job. I'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
then you're doing
a couple
15
of months
jobs.
in, you're like, oh my God, what have I done?
It's like bookkeeping. I hate it.
Me too.
My wife hates. I mean, just hates it. We hated it.
That must be in the genes.
Yeah.
It must be like something passed down.
It must be. I can start doing it for a half hour and I'm done. So we hired someone to do that.
Yeah.
Well, lo and behold, they would come into the office. They'd have it done what would take us 2 weeks. They'd have it done in 2 hours.
Yeah.
With the reports on my desk. And I mean, you got to hire people who do what you don't know how to do or don't want to do. You have to do that because you'll go crazy trying to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
You have to really use your brain a little bit and look into it because it really doesn't cost that much.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and like you said, knowing your strengths and your weaknesses, I think also knowing what you want to do with your business. So your business now, for instance, tell me a little bit about your goal for where you're at now in the semi-retirement phase of a business versus where you were in full swing.
Well, yeah. I mean, the potential is there to build another bigger business. I have to hold myself back because at the age I'm at now, I don't want to work that hard. I don't want to go into the employee thing. So I'm looking for someone, a younger guy, maybe in his, 20, 30, 40s, that wants to take over a really good business that could really do well with it. Yeah. So I'm spending the next 2 to 3 years. I've promised by the time I'm 70.
You need to stop. I imagine you carpet cleaning's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's physical.
It's a lot of picking up hoses and wands and
moving furniture.
Upstairs where you're at now, a lot of stairs.
A lot of stairs, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure you could do it at 70, but probably you should.
Probably shouldn't do that, yeah.
I feel like I'm going to get a call. Dad fell down the stairs.
And that's true. And,
don't
eventually
worry, he cleaned up after himself.
That's right. He cleaned out all the blood.
Carpet.
It's all cleaned up. Yeah, so at 70, I hope to be totally out of it. And but I'll probably do something else.
Yeah.
I have a few things in mind already. I think I'm going to do podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Is the studio available?
Yeah, there's a studio. I'll come down here and do some podcast. Yeah. But I have some things in mind that I'd like to do. I referred to Ron Klein earlier. Ron Klein, if you don't know him, a friend of mine, he invented the magnetic strip on your credit card. Which is being replaced now by the chip, but
it's still not totally replaced yet.
No,
it's very close.
It's still there. And Ron is in his 80s. Ron lives here in Sarasota. I mean, he rides his bike every day. He runs on the beach every day.
That's crazy.
He is just unbelievable. So he's been an inspiration to me. That retirement is maybe not what it's cracked up to be in a bill of goods that we've been sold. You have to retire at 65.
Yeah.
It's just you retire when you want to. If you want to retire at 65, great, or 60. But if you want to keep working, you should keep working.
Well, because I can't, I think about how much time and mental space running a business takes up, and I enjoy a good part of it.
Right.
And then all of a sudden to not have that in my life, what would I do?
Right.
Sometimes in the worst parts of our business, the worst times, I imagine working for somebody else. You can relate to that. And I think, wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice to just go get a paycheck and not have to worry about it? And then you realize, except that I would hate my life. And or even retirement. You think, wouldn't it be nice to just get to a place where I wouldn't have to worry? I'll just travel the country and be bored off my ass.
And you do. And I think depression sets into a lot of people. Growing up here in Florida, in Sarasota, saw a lot of people retire from up north, come down here and get sick and eventually pass away because they sat in front of the TV most of the time and maybe golfed once in a while, but they didn't do anything. They have no purpose anymore.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of things to do that you don't have to work, maybe volunteer places and, do all those things. But when they sat in front of the TV, they got sick. Their body's not made to do that.
Interesting about the purpose side of it, that sometimes it's maybe less about the work and more about the purpose.
It's about the purpose, right. Right now I'm volunteering in a soup kitchen kind of thing, feed the homeless in downtown Winston-Salem, where I live. People come there, sometimes 150 people.
Yeah.
And they need food, and we're feeding them, and it gives you a great purpose.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. I love it. And there's a need for that in every city that people can get involved in. So that's really, it gives you purpose.
That's very cool.
Yep.
Man, that's good. All good stuff.
Yep.
If you were to, we've talked a little bit about this already, but see if anything else comes to mind. If you were to go back 10, 20 years ago and talk to yourself, if you could time travel,
wow.
and sit across face to face with yourself, what would you say? What would be the
first
thing?
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Stop doing that.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of things I would change for sure. I mean, we all have regrets, but I think I would tell myself to try to get more education in the industry and in business. So if someone could take like business courses or maybe even get a business coach even while they're starting their business, that puts them in the right direction. Business coaches can look at some things from different views than you can.
Right.
Different perspective than you can, and go, no. Here's what you need to do. Here's what works. Try this. Yeah, that's a biggie because that changed my business. When I started Greenway in 2008, and my business tripled when I went to a business coach, a good business coach that taught me some things to do, simple things to do. So that's one of the big things I'd say.
Yeah, that's good. And now too, there's so many more online resources and training too.
Right.
Like you say, go back to school. I mean, there's online courses you can take, and there is a lot of stuff. So
that's my old school stuff.
But still, no, business coach. I mean, I'm working with a business coach right now, and sometimes it's like you said, just the obvious stuff where you know it, and you know they're actually not typically telling you anything. Sometimes it's new information, but a lot of times it's just, hey, you're doing this, and maybe you should be doing this, and you're like, yeah, I should be doing that, but why am I not doing that? And it's kind of what's keeping me? Why am I procrastinating on that one thing that I should be doing?
Yeah, and that's a lot of it. Learning yourself, and your business is a reflection of you. It really is, and some things you don't do because you're just too lazy, or you don't want to do it, or you're afraid to do it.
You're afraid to do it.
That scares me. I can't do that. But then you step out and do it, and I was, wow, I did it, and it works, and that's awesome. And and work smarter. You got to work smarter. I killed myself in the early days, and I didn't have to, and I just didn't know any better.
You killed yourself on multiple levels because also your business was very physical labor intensive,
right?
And you had the mental stress of running a business,
right?
So
and it's hard to know. I mean, when to get an employee, that's a difficult question. At what point do I take on an employee?
Yeah.
And every time you do, that's like, you better get some more business. I mean, because you got to keep that employee working. So that's hard to do is knowing when to put on an employee. But when you really look at it, you'll know. You know when to put on an employee. When you're working all the time and you just can't keep up. You have to. You just have to do it.
And sometimes, the chicken or the egg, which comes first? Like, do you have enough money to hire?
Right.
Or do you jump out and hire hoping that person will bring more money?
Exactly.
Like you said, I don't know that there's a perfect answer there. Some people will tell you, well, make sure you have the margin and the profit built in to where you get to X amount of money, then you're ready to hire an employee. But sometimes you can't get to that amount unless you
hire an employee.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's tricky.
That would be the great thing, the perfect scenario, but that doesn't always happen.
Right.
Sometimes you have to step out and really crunch it for a while. Maybe you take less money. There's been many weeks where I didn't take any money.
Yeah.
Many times. Made payroll to employees, paid all my bills, and there's like $60 left.
Yeah.
It's true.
Right.
I mean, people go, oh my gosh,
or
you got to
pay late.
Pay late.
Sometimes it's
and that's another thing I learned: set yourself up on a payroll, because if you don't pay yourself every week, you're not showing the true cost of a business, because you got to account for your time.
Yeah.
Your time has to. You're giving that to the business. You have to be paid for it, and that's a legitimate cost of the business.
Right.
So you're really cheating yourself and the business if you're not cutting yourself a check every week for a designated amount.
Yeah.
So you have to do that.
It's good. Well, I want to end it on one other question, because you've sold a few businesses,
right?
And your last business that you sold was, I think, pretty successful in the selling process,
right?
What's something people need to do to prepare their business to sell? Just something you can think of that you learned.
I mean, I think it has to have the systems in place. When I talk about turnkey business, where someone could walk in with maybe a little bit of training, a couple of weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, or a month of training with you, and they can take over the business. In other words, have manuals, done, which we did. We had all our manuals done, our employee manuals, and let your employees do that. Your employees are cool, man. I said to my employees, hey, we need to make some training manuals, some procedure manuals. And I said, can you guys write down whatever you do? What they did was they would record in their phone on their daily work what they did every day. And then we wrote it into a manual. It worked really well.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So having those manuals, it became a running joke. Well, we need a procedure for that.
Yeah.
We need a manual for that. Because by the time we had like stacks of manuals. You think, well, that's kind of why you do that. Because a new owner came in and went, wow, that's impressive.
And because otherwise it's all in your head.
It's all in my head.
Right.
I mean, I'm selling the business. They need to know all that stuff.
Yeah.
And have good employees in place. Having your ducks in a row, and evaluating the worth of a business, that's a whole nother ballgame. There's many ways to do it. You just have to be fair about it. Everybody thinks their business is worth millions of dollars.
Yeah, I
I'm
know,
going to make $1 million on this. This is my baby. I'm not. But you gotta come down to reality and sell it.
Well, and I think especially if someone's interested, we had, I guess it was a couple years back now, we had someone approach us that was potentially interested in buying us. And of course, Tommy and I, we at first we were like, no way. And then we got all excited. And then we went through the whole, oh yeah, our business is worth millions.
Exactly.
And then got brought back down to earth. And it didn't end up working out. And him and I decided we're going to stick with it. But ultimately, yeah, I remember going through just a little bit of that, of like, how much are we worth? And one of the things I was reading was, you're essentially just worth what somebody else will pay for you.
That's right.
I was like, well, that's pretty
line.
basic.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And that's an agreement that you've got to come to with whoever's interested in buying your business.
That's true. And the people who sell businesses, business brokers, they'll have all kinds of formulas.
Right.
And those are good to go by.
Yeah.
But bottom line is what somebody's going to pay for it. And you have to just come to an agreement on that. But that's really the bottom line to it. And hey, when you get that big fat check in your hand, it feels pretty good.
I bet.
Although it doesn't stay around long. I don't know where that money goes, but it just...
Yeah, well, right. You think about, I sold my business for $1 million or whatever. That goes quick.
Oh, then what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You have to have another plan because you can use that money fast. So hopefully you can invest that money or take some of that money and start another business, whatever. But you need to have a plan in place before that happens, because then you're standing there going, oh, I think I'll take a year off. Well, guess what? That money's going to go right down the drain. It's gone. And then where are you at? So you have to have a plan. Yeah. And financial advisors can help you do that. Yeah. And you're talking to a guy who never relied on other people, but I've learned you have to use other people's expertise in your life, or you're going to be in trouble. You can't do it all yourself. Yeah. You think you can, but you can't.
Right.
So that's why professionals are out there to help you.
Yeah. In fact, we had another podcast with some financial advisors a couple weeks back.
Right. I saw that.
So yeah. Forza Wealth, good guys.
Yeah. You gotta let them do it. They know what they're doing.
Yes, they do.
I have no idea what I'm doing with
either.
Investments. So it's like, whatever. Yeah. You're making me money. That's great. Love it. So, but hey, cool. It's, having your own business is so rewarding in the long run. I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah. Like I tried to work for other people, wouldn't work. Your own business is where it's at for me. One
takeaway for me has always been when you raised me with two things. I'll do two things. Is you always instilled a really good work ethic. Work hard, it'll pay off. And even when you don't want to work hard, keep working hard. Right. And then the other thing you always said was, if you're going to make any money, especially you'd say in Sarasota, if you're going to make any money in this town, you got to work for yourself.
That's true.
And it's funny because I've found that to be true.
Yeah.
And I've actually made some decent money working for myself. I remember one time you were working in between businesses. You were working like 4 jobs or something.
Yeah. I was
doing tell me your schedule, because it was like you got up.
I would get up at 4 a.m. and do a USA Today paper route. It was the the box papers where you put you didn't throw them, but you put them in the boxes,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
around to the supermarkets or wherever. And then I would get done at 7:00, and then I went to work for a friend of ours who did electrical and did alarm business, and I pulled wire and did all kinds of crazy things doing that. And then I would go and wait tables at a restaurant for the evening shift and be done about 10:00 and get back up at 4 the next morning. And I did that for, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, and I started falling asleep like on my day job. On the ladder, I'd be like falling asleep. You can't do that. It was crazy.
And that was essentially all just to make the same amount of money you were making with your own business.
My own business, right.
Yeah.
And then I was DJing weddings on the weekends. So
When
I was
did
doing,
you sleep?
I don't know. I don't remember, but I mean, and you guys were young.
Yeah.
So
Probably middle schoolish.
I was
think.
doing, Ranger Scouts and baseball and all those. I don't know how you find time. Well, you have young kids. Where your mind is, you just do it.
Yeah.
You do it, and later on, when the kids are gone, then you have your own time.
Well, you've said that to me, and we had a guy on the podcast, Michael Corley was on the podcast, and one of the things he said to me was, basically, like, this time of your life is the hardest time of your life.
It is.
When you
Very
have
difficult.
kids and you're running a business and you're trying to do it all. And he's like, it's amazing just how much more time you have, like, when your kids move out of the house.
This is
and
true.
You're an empty nester.
Yeah, it's like, wow.
What happened?
It's almost shocking. It's like,
Yeah,
wow.
I can imagine.
You have to fill your time with something. But it is the most difficult time, trying to keep everybody happy, all your ducks in a row. And it's you're running here and running there. I think I remember we were home like 2 nights a week, maybe, during that time. I was always running somewhere.
You really revel in that time that you have. You don't get very bit.
But also you miss those times. Those are great times, when you're raising your kids and fun times, and you enjoyed it. And you miss those times. But hey, life moves on. That's the way it's supposed to be. Kids move on. They have their own. So that's the way it's supposed to be. So pretty cool.
Well, look at that. Perfect segue. And then you come back on the podcast.
That's right. And I come back on the podcast.
And do a podcast.
Yeah.
But no, I'm so... It was awesome to have you on. Obviously, we could keep talking forever.
Right.
I feel like we're just sitting around the dinner table after dinner with a drink talking. I mean,
Exactly.
That just feels normal. So.
Exactly.
But Dad, thanks for being on the podcast.
It was my pleasure. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for everything you shared.
I enjoyed it.
Awesome. And thanks for watching another episode of Little Fish. Look forward to having you on to watch another episode next week.